Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel Code to Career AI. I hope you all are doing great. So on this channel we post latest tech opportunities, latest tech content, and now we have started posting the content related to the AI and other backend engineering stuff. Okay. So please do consider subscribing and hit the bell icon. So in this particular video, we'll be talking about the most important Java interview based questions. So we have a limited questions kept here so that we can talk about in detail instead of just theoretical knowledge. We'll be solving it, we will be writing the code and we'll see how we can approach this problem. Okay. So without wasting time, let's start. So the first question says is filter and count the number of transactions. So what the question says is, let's say you have a list of transactions, status is basically, and you have to filter out the required status, and you have to count the occurrence as well. Okay. So let me take you to the ID. I'm using IntelliJ and I'm using Java 17 version. So what the question says is, let's say you have a list of string. Okay. You have a list of string. So one problem statement you can think of is, let's say you are using some Splunk or some Datadog, right? And you have to just filter out the failed transactions. So that kind of scenarios we can use. So let's say you have a list of, I'm using list of. So you have a transaction status is like success. Okay. And let's say you have a pending and you have failed. Okay. And let's say you have a failed again. So now if we just see on this particular list, so you have two failed statuses, right? And the count is two. But how we'll approach is with the help of code, right? That can be asked in the interview. So we can try to solve it using Java 8 stream concept. So we have this transaction list, right? So there is a method called stream and I can apply a stream over that. Now, since I know I have to filter, right? So what I can do is I can use filter, which takes the predicate. It can either return true or false, right? So let's say I'm using a lambda function here. If my element is equals to failed, right? If it is equals to failed, that only have to filter it out, and I have to count as well, right? So count is a terminal operator, and I can just get the count. So if you see, it is showing result of string count is ignored because I'm not storing it in any variable, right? So let's say I want to print this directly. Instead of storing it in somewhere, I am just printing it. So what you will see is we have filtered out the failed transactions out of this list and we have counted the occurrence as well. So the count is 2. And here also we saw it's 2. So what we have done is we have used the stream concept. We have applied the filter that is an intermediate operator or intermediate operation, I would say. And then after doing that, we are using a terminal operation that is count. And after that, the result we are getting, we are just printing it. So this was the first problem, right? Now let's move on to the second problem statement, which said database messy. So what does that mean is, let's say you have a lot of you have a table, right? And inside the table you have a lot of usernames. And since there was no checks in place, users were actually put the data into raw format. Like some were adding in the uppercase, some were adding lowercase, camel case, like that, right? So what I'm trying to say is, let's say, let's say you have a list of users, list of list of string basically, but we are calling that as a users list. Okay, and inside that list you have a lot of people. Let's say Arun, right? And you have Nitin. Okay, so it's like that. Some are in lowercase, some are in uppercase, camel case, like that. Right? Let's say Nidhi. Okay, Nidhi, like that. So the requirement says is you have to use Java 8 features and you have to do some kind of transformation on all these elements so that you can store it in a particular format. Let's say you want to store it in a lowercase. Okay. So what we can do is we can apply the stream concept here as well. So I'm using the stream. So since we have to apply the same operation on all the elements, right? So there is an a method that is called as map, and it takes function. So what we can do is we can, since we have this list type, right, string type of elements, right? So what we can do is, since I have a string, and on all the elements, or basically on all the users, I want to make it lowercase. So I've used this lowercase. If you want to check out set implementation and all, you can just go to the string class and you can get it, right? It is implementing serializable, comparable, and all those things, right? And you can find its the basically declaration and all here. So I'm using this 2k lowercase here, and I have to return the list as well, right? So we have this toList method which will return the list. If we want to store it into a particular list, right, we can do that. Otherwise, we can just print it. So let's say I want to store this into a list, and I am calling it as let's say filtered list. Okay, filtered user list. And if I just print it, right, filtered user list. So here is how we can run the program, Java program. So if you see, it has it has converted all the users in the list into an lowercase, right? Similarly, you can use uppercase or any other cases, but you can find an implementation in this particular class. So this is the second problem statement that you're working on. They will give you some this kind of problems. They will not directly ask you to convert into an uppercase or lowercase. They will give a problem statement, and then we'll ask you how this map will work, right? How this filter will work. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question. Next question is says that sorting after finding the distinct programming languages. So let's say you are given a lot of programming languages list, right? Now you have to find the distinct programming languages out of that list, and you have to sort that as well. So how will you sorting that in the alphabetical order? Okay. So let's go one by one. Let's say you have a list. So since we are taking an example of majorly on the strings, so try to understand it very carefully. I have a list of programming languages list. Okay. And inside that list, you have, let's say, Java. Okay. ABC. There is no programming language with ABC, but I'm just keeping it ABC, or let's say Python, like that. Okay. And let's say you have ABC again, and you have Java also again. Okay. If you see, and let's add one more. Let's say, C. Okay. So now if you see here, uh, you can find Java is present two times. ABC is also present two times. Python and C are present one times. So basically, you have to find all the you have to remove basically the duplicates. But I would say you need to remove the duplicates, and then you have to sort it into a alphabetical order. Okay. So what we can do is we have this programming list. I will be using the stream concept here only. Okay. And we have one distinct method which will return as a stream, right? If you see here, if you go, let's say you have this string method, right? If I go inside that, it is actually returning the stream. That's why we are calling this as an intermediate operation. Okay. Because it will take a stream and it will also return a stream. But in the case of terminal operators, it's not like that. It will not return you the stream. Okay. So you have applied the distinct over it. Now you want to sort as well. Since we just want to go with the natural sorting, I'm just using the sorted here. Okay. And I want to return that list as well. So you can use that. So if I just do the printing of it, okay. Yeah. So if you see, we are now getting the distinct elements since it has removed the duplicates. Also, it has arranged it into a alphabetical order. Now you can see ABC is coming as first, then C, then Java, then Python, like that. So in this particular problem statement, we have applied the concept Java 8, and we are using a streams, and we are using a method called distinct and sorted to approach this particular problem statement. Okay. Now let's move on to the next. That is very simple, but it is not that simple, because if we don't know how we can find the first occurrence, then it will create an issue. So what we have to do, we have to find the first occurrence. Okay. So let's say you have some numbers. Let's say you have some numbers. Here we will use, instead of string, we will use some integer. Okay. We will use some integer and I'm calling it as price list. Okay. And let's say I am creating a list and inside that we have 50, 150, and let's say 200 and 80. Okay. So what you have to do, you have to filter out all those elements which are greater than 100. But you have to do one more thing here. You have to find the first occurrence. First, I don't say, I mean, instead of saying first occurrence, I want to say like whichever comes first. After filtering out that condition, you need to print that element. Okay. So what we can do is, since I have this price list, I will apply the stream on this as well. And we know we have to filter out, because I told you like we have to find all those elements which are greater than 100. Okay. So first thing is we have to filter it, and we can use lambda function here. So till this till this point we have filtered out all the elements from this list which are greater than 100. Now if you see in this list, there are two elements greater than 100, 150 and 200. But you have to do you have to find the first element. Okay. So there is method called find first. Using that you will get that particular element and you can return it. Okay. So if we just try it out after filtering all this with the help of this condition, you can see. Let me run it from here. Yeah. So one more thing here, it is returning an optional because find first. So one thing I forgot to tell you. Let's say I've removed this. Okay. Now I will go inside. Sorry. Instead of this, yeah. Let's say I go to the find first. So if you go into the find first, it is returning an optional. What we do is optional comes into the picture when we don't want to go into the null pointer exception, or basically to handle this null pointer exception gracefully. Okay. Because in this scenario, there can be some situation this particular filter is not returning any value. Let's say if all these values are less than 100, right? So if I apply find first, then it will fail because it will return null. But since we have this optional concept here, it will not fail. Okay, this optional also came in the this version only, Java 8. Okay, so what we can do is we are storing this content, or basically the result, into the optional. Okay, and I'm calling it as, let's say, P. Okay, and once after getting this, what I will do, there is a method called dot get. Okay, it will return us the value if there is if the above line is returning the result of it. Okay, so let's see it. So let me run it again. Yeah, so if you see, the 15 is, oh sorry, 150 is the one which is coming as the fund first. Let me manipulate this question. Okay, let me make it 70. Okay, I just want to show you like this particular problem statement, or this particular implementation that we did is not breaking. Okay, so let's say now I want to run this because there is no element which is greater than 100, right? So this will not return anything. So let me run it. Yeah. Yeah, so what you can see is like it is showing no value present because there is no element which is greater than 100, right? So in this particular implementation, what we have saw is like how we can use filter and how we can use this find first to actually find the first element in that particular list after the filtering. Now let's move on to the next question. So this is very looks to be a very simple question. So what they are saying is total revenue generation. Let's say you have a list of numbers. You have to use Java 8 concept, stream concept, and you have to just aggregate all the total and you have to just print it. Okay, so let me show you what I'm saying. Let's say you have a list of integer, okay, and we are calling it as amount list dot of let's say 100, 200, and 500. Okay. Now the question looks very simple. We have to just sum all of these and we have to just print it. But since we have to do it using Java 8, there is one concept called reduce, right? So in the reduce, what we do is we actually use in those scenarios where we wanted to like club all the result which we are getting. Let's say from this we are getting some result, right? So the result which we get from this we will add on the top of this particular one, so that it can start reducing, and we are actually from a bigger problem, right? We are making a smaller problem, and we are reaching to some extent that we need. Let me show you what I'm saying here. Let's say we have an amount and we are using a streams, and we call it as reduce. And since we have to do the summation, right, I'm keeping the initial number as 0, because if we add something in 0, right, then we will get that number, right? And I want to do what I want to do. Let's say I'm getting two params, A or B. So what I want to do is I want to add them, A plus B. Okay. So what is doing, we are starting from 0, that is we are calling it as identity. Then after that, this particular reduce logic that we are applying is we are actually doing summation, or basically we are adding the numbers using the lambda functions. So if I just try to print it, right? So if you see in other methods like map and all, we are not reducing it. We are applying the same operation on each element in the map. But in the case of reduce, we are actually let me comment it for a time being. This one, let's say this one, right? Yeah, let me run it again. Yeah, if you see, we have got this number as 800, that it has actually added all these numbers and given it us. So what I was trying to say is, in the case of map, we were applying a particular transformation all the elements. Okay. But in the case of reduce, we are actually getting a single, after doing a reduce operation on all these, we are not actually applying a same operation. Like, I mean, at the end, you are not getting these three numbers. You are getting a single number, right? 800. So we have applied this reduce concept of Java streams, and we are able to add the summation. So this kind of questions they can ask. This looks very simple, but they can ask how this reduce work, what is identity. Right? If you go inside this, you can see it is taking binary operator and it is using accumulator, right? So this is how you can actually check out all these implementation as well. There are a lot of methods. So in this video, I think that's all. We'll bring more interview questions, right? From a theoretical perspective, from a practical implementation as well. So till then, that's all for now. Thank you for watching till the end, and please do subscribe. Thank you.